So this is version now 3 of my DIY grandMA2 onPC sort of command wing or setup here. So if you come here and check out, we have the keyboard here, we have encoders, we have faders, and we have more buttons, as well as these are also functioning as buttons up here. This is as close to sort of actually MA3 layout because this was originally designed for MA3. I found it online. A guy had made all the files, the build guide and everything, and I took it and adapted it to function on MA2 because that's what I'm most familiar with, and it was a fun challenge to try to get. I had to change some buttons because some of them didn't exist in MA2, some MA3 special buttons, but I was able to figure it out because these output keyboard shortcuts, which then get interpreted by the MA2 software and mapped to the buttons in the software. This is all touchscreen, so you see there I can like open up the main screen and I can pull up all my screens and go through all my presets, color, all that stuff. Functions nicely, and it kind of simulates the touchscreen console experience that you're used to with an MA2. So now if you come over here to the keyboard, I turn on the group, it functions as normal. I can set it at a value, do something, and then the encoders are nice because they also change, they're through MIDI. They send MIDI commands which then are mapped to macros which move it, and they change based on whatever you select automatically. So if I have position selected and I turn them, they will move through the position. And you can actually, what I did there is I tapped it to change the resolution because it was at 0.1 from earlier. Now it's at 10, so like the wide, and then this is fine mode at 0.1, and then I can put it back to normal mode. So it functions as a console would. You can do multiple at the same time, however you normally would. Switch it over here, do color, and now this is color because these fixtures have color wheel. Or you could do standard color mixing. I have a screen encoder on the end here, which allows screen encoder functions. Now coming over to the buttons, they function right in with there as MIDI. So they send keyboard shortcuts and it gets mapped to MIDI, and they all work nicely as expected. And the faders are all mapped to the faders in here, so you can see there I'm moving a fader. It's moving it in the software, and it's making the lights turn on. Functions as close to a console as you could be without being a console, which was kind of the whole premise of it. You literally just press the power button on the mini PC that runs it here. All the software loads, everything loads, MA2 loads in full screen. There is software under the hood here that I'm going to show you with the mouse because it's a little easier with the mouse. I have MIDI mapping here to map all the encoders and buttons to make them properly understand from control change to note, so MA2 can interpret that. And then I have this great software here that came out a year ago, which allows you to map whatever you want to whatever you want. You can do like a bunch of, literally anything under the sun is here of protocols. You can even make your own custom if it doesn't support it. And you can choose, you can make mappings, you can do all your stuff there, mapping MIDI to, or keyboard shortcuts to MIDI, MIDI to MIDI, keyboard shortcuts to keyboard shortcuts, whatever you want. And that all loads up minimized, and it automatically is configured when you start it up. So it's all ready here. And now if you come around to the back here, this whole thing is in a case, and it's a hard shell case. It's nice and sturdy. And in the back here, we have a power con for secure power. It's not going to fall out like a standard C13 possibly could at a gig. And then I have 2 DMX ports here for DMX. These are 3-pin because most of my lights use 3-pin, but that can be changed in the future. I also have adapters to adapt it as needed. Now you might be wondering, well, how does it connect to those lights right there? Well, that's because I'm actually using wireless inside. I have a 2-port DMX node in here that allows me to communicate with these lights. and I have a wireless DMX inside. But if I wanted to ever change that so that both of my ports back there would be wired up, because currently one's unplugged for the wireless. If I wanted to change that so both of mine could be used in a gig if I needed two universes and I didn't want to use wireless, or if I needed to service anything such as the DMX node or the computer or anything below, it's simple as taking this foam out, taking off 4 wing nuts, and then the whole thing lifts up and I get full access to underneath, and it closes right back up, put the foam down, and it looks nice and pleasant like this. And it mimics the MA3 layout, but I find it to be pretty similar to the MA2 layout and pretty understandable as to the differences of them. And yeah, it's been really fun with the custom soldering and figuring out how, I build it exactly how the build guide said, but it didn't work, obviously, because I needed to make all the elements that work with MA2, such as make a custom keyboard shortcut mapping for all these keys. Some of the keyboard shortcuts had to be remapped because they didn't work with MA2, or some things had to be mapped with MIDI because you can't have hardware buttons for executors off keyboard shortcuts. For some of you can, some of you can't. There were limitations. I worked through them, I figured it out, and it's all working, it's all rock solid, and I think I accomplished my goal of making it as close to a console as possible without being a console and being on a budget.